Hello class and welcome to the Three Stooges NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Briggins. I'm your instructor, Professor Briggins, and right off the bat we have a pretty good gag right here. Gotta love the digitized speech. This is an interesting game. It's kind of like a board game with some mini games mixed in. It's certainly in a class all of its own. In terms of difficulty, there we go. In terms of difficulty, I'm going to give the Three Stooges for the NES a 5 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to throwing your controller across the room, probably because you hit a mousetrap when you didn't mean to, ending your game prematurely so that you didn't quite have enough money to help out Ma's orphanage. Speaking of Ma's orphanage, get some context as to what's going on here in the Three Stooges. So Ma, her house is in disrepair, and she's late on the rent. Needs money for the rent and to fix up the house. Gotta help those kids, and the good-natured Stooges agree to help out, come up with the money. They seem like nice guys, Ma, but maybe have a plan B. Just saying. Actually, you don't need a plan B, Ma, because we've got you covered, class. Blaze has the ranking list of the best spaces to go for to earn the most money to save Ma's orphanage. Fluff has a number of interesting facts about this game and the Three Stooges. And yeah, I've got you covered for the rest of it, so let's run the intro and get into this Three Stooges NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. Alright, as we start a new game here, we'll get an idea of what we're getting into. I mentioned it's kind of like a board game right at the top. So the hand icon moves around randomly. You can stop it by hitting A. Actually, let's take a look at the controls real quick for the Three Stooges for the NES. Basically, A and B are interchangeable for the most part. They do everything in this game. You can pause with start, move around with the D-pad, and most of these. But yes, this is essentially a collection of mini-games as well as chance squares that you can land on, which could either be good or bad. Let's take a look at the Briggs notes for this Three Stooges NES walkthrough, the keys to beating this game, earning the most money, to end with the best ending. First, speaking of good or bad squares that you can land on, you want to slow the selector speed. We can do that by landing on one particular square, so that when the hand jumps around, it doesn't do it quite as fast, so you have more time to react and hopefully aim for the one that you want. Secondly, speaking of which, aim for the most lucrative squares, the ones which earn you the most money, the safest ones. Number 3, you want to stop after the hand hits a mousetrap. So the next one, generally you have a much lower chance of it hitting another mousetrap. That is if there's even more than one on the board at a time. And finally, use Fluff's facts to solve the trivia. I think Fluff has some outside help for the first time today, but I don't blame him for that. He'll talk about that in a moment when we get to our first trivia questions. But now we have the Waiters minigame. One of my favorites, actually. You can earn a lot of money here, and just who doesn't love the classic slapstick comedy? Nothing says Three Stooges like good old-fashioned pie toss. So in this one, you can duck by holding up, left to right, or down. Up controls Mo at the top. Left to right controls Curly in the middle, and down makes Larry at the bottom duck. Just hold it down when you see a pie coming your way on that plane. But otherwise, you just want to keep throwing the pies, basically hitting A or B in combination with the direction buttons for each Stooge. The best strategy is to keep them coming, and then once you see a pie coming your way, just duck for that respective Stooge. The more pies you can get off, then the less chance that they have of actually getting a pie back at you. So it pays to stay on the offensive in this one. And they'll double your money if you serve all the pies. So we made a decent chunk of change right there. Got the double bonus. But yeah, definitely go for the pies whenever possible, whenever that's on the board. Again, we're going to bring in Blaze to rank all the different squares from best to worst, which we recommend going for. once we get a moment to get some repeats here, there's not that many squares. There's only about 3 or 4 actual mini games and a whole lot of chance squares. So this is the hospital one. The idea is just to stay behind the doctor. Doing so as he moves left to right will keep you from running into any of these patients. It's safer if you go a bit slower, but you get a bonus if you make it all the way to the end. This actually can be one of the more challenging ones because you have to balance speed along with control and making sure you don't hit anything and you have very little time to react. You'll see the doctor's also throwing out these little symbols here. These earn you a little extra money if you collect them, but don't go out of your way to pick them up. It's gravy basically, because every time we hit somebody we lose more time, which makes it nearly impossible to get to the operating room at the end. So we only got $45 for that. So that one gets a little repetitive in my experience. Landing on the money, that one's pretty straightforward. We'll wait till we get to the trivia square for the first time, and Fluff can talk about that. The dollar sign is always good. Again, I don't want to cannibalize what Blaze is about to say, but I think we can all, you probably could have guessed for yourself that landing on the dollar sign square, generally a good thing. I guess they're more rectangular too, they're kind of cards here. So this is the one that we want to land on early on so we can slow down the speed, which makes getting the actual cards which we land on, the spaces, a little easier, landing on the ones that we want. It's just basically, reverse left and right, tap a button, keep smacking the other 2 Stooges as Mo, and you just want to, when that timer hits 0, you want that to be on the slowest speed. It's not difficult at all to get this to the speed that you want. There we go. Just grabbing right onto those nipples, it looks like. All right. Classic comedy. All right, so, all right. Well, while we knock out another waiters, let's bring in Fluff for our first Fluff fact about the Three Stooges for the NES. Fluff?
The Three Stooges is a 1989 NES game developed by Beam Software and published by Activision. The game is actually a port of the 1987 game for the Amiga computer. The game is largely the same, but one notable difference is that in the Amiga version, the opening gag is the game presents itself as Defender of the Crown, another game from the developer of the Amiga version, Cinemaware. In the NES version, the opening gag is of course that the game presents itself as Ghostbusters, another game from the same developer for this port in Activision. The NES version wasn't the only port of the game, as it was also ported to the Apple II, Commodore 64, DOS, Windows, and amazingly even the Game Boy Advance and Sony PlayStation. Talk about staying power.
I'd like to meet the guy who managed to sell the idea of porting a game that was 7, 8 years old at that point to PlayStation, to the Game Boy Advance. At that point, that's impressive. So if we can double up our money here, we will get close to $800. We'll get over $800. There we go. $820. The old reliable, the pie toss, and I don't know, I enjoy that one. It's pretty easy too, so like to go for that. Let's see if we can end on the trivia. I like the hoity-toity club right there. So we got no trivia here. We got another dollar sign. Making more money right here. Let's see what we get. And we earned ourselves $250. All right, well, there you go. Is what it is. Can we get another new one we haven't seen yet? Otherwise, we'll bring Fluff back in for another fact. We got boxing. Haven't done boxing yet. There we go. Yeah, much more manageable, you can tell, with this speed on the selector. There's trivia on the right, maybe for next time. All right, so the boxing one's a little tricky. You would think it would involve boxing. At least you would be the active boxer here, but no, you'd be wrong. We're actually controlling Larry here, as Larry has to navigate an obstacle course to get back in time to, I think, play Pop Goes the Weasel for Curly to give him a better chance in the ring. So we're controlling Larry at the bottom, and it's basically just a matter of moving up and down, threading the needle not hitting any obstacles. Not sure, was that like a nude sunbather? Just sprawled out on the pavement, jumping over the odd obstacle when you need to. We can press right to go faster, as you can see right here, but it's more dangerous in that case. I like to do it once I'm close to the end checkpoint, essentially, getting that radio, and then once I know that I'm past all the obstacles, getting back to the start, just to give yourself a little bit of a boost. Depending on which round we get back to Curly with the radio to play Pop Goes the Weasel, we will earn an extra $100. So, speed is very important, but you don't want to get knocked down, as that's right there. That's going to slow you down, make you lose some time. So, the ending's right there. So we cost ourselves $100 by falling there at the end. So how much did we make from that? There's Pop Goes the Weasel. And then, Fluff will talk about what that's a reference to in a bit, but we made $600, so if we made it in round 4, we would have made $700, but that's all right. That one gets a little repetitive as far as I'm concerned, too. All right, so we got trivia for the first time. Let's bring in Fluff. He's going to explain how to get the answers for these questions. Fluff?
Okay, so there's roughly 70 trivia questions, making it unrealistic to fit all questions and answers into a single image I could share here. Instead, I'm going to do something I don't normally do and outsource this to someone who's already put in the work in making a lengthy and specific guide just to these questions. So refer to that via the link in the description of this class.
70 questions. Yeah, I don't blame you for that one, Fluff. I've already got the guide up, so I'll be using that. Good call. It's easy money, though, if you have the answers at hand. Automatic $600, $200 for each correct answer, which you get. So we've actually already seen, I think, every single mini game that we have available to us here in the Three Stooges. So while we try to get to the OR, let's bring in Blaze, finally, for that overview, the ranked list of the best to worst squares to land on here in the Three Stooges. Blaze? All right, let's rank the squares you can fall on in Three Stooges from best to worst. First, we start off with the $sign. Leave it to the Stooges to fall butt backwards in money for doing absolutely nothing, but that's what this space is all about. Each time you land on the $sign, you'll earn a random amount of money between $100 and $1,000. Not a bad place to fall on there. Number 2, you'll be asked 3 trivia questions about the Three Stooges, with each correct answer being worth $200. This space becomes a very quick and easy way to earn $600, assuming you've got access to Fluff's facts, which, by attending this class, you certainly do. Next, we have the Moe and Curly space. Hit this to access a minigame, which allows you to control the speed at which the event selector moves. Slowing it down all the way makes it a lot easier to pick the actual events that you want, so this is a very important space to hit as early in the game as possible. Next, we have Help Wanted Waiters. Relatively easy minigame here, as the professor will cover, in which you can actually typically earn at least $400, but the professor will cover this in more depth. Next, we have the Help Wanted Doctor Square, another quick one where the objective is to stay behind the doctor. Here, you just want to avoid the obstacles and move as quickly as possible. Getting to the end will net you another bonus. Next, we have the Boxing Square. It's a bit repetitive. Doing it once is certainly more than enough as far as I'm concerned, but you run Larry through an obstacle course as quickly as possible to help out Curly in the boxing ring. Okay, sure. This one gets monotonous very quickly the more times you do it, but it's an easy way to reliably earn between $500 and $700 depending on what round you complete it in. Next, we have the crackers. Just gotta eat the crackers before the oyster can. $10 per cracker, $50 a bowl. It's another one which gets monotonous, but it beats losing money. Next, we get the finger. This is right in the middle. This just ends the day with no consequences, good or bad, but keep in mind, you only have those 30 days to make the money, so can't be sitting around wasting time like that. Next, we have the safe. This is a chance square to fall on, in which you can earn either $500 or pay out $1,000. Not worth the risk if you ask me. Next, we have the Fleece and Banker. Avoid this space. This sees the Stooges receive one of a couple different letters. At best, Fleeson will tell you that you'll never make enough money, but at worst, you'll be informed you'll have to pay out $1,000 for a safe. And last, we have the mousetrap. You only get 4 lives, or fingers, I guess. Guess they don't consider the thumb a finger, but every time you land on the space, you lose a finger / a life. Once you're out of lives, it essentially just ends the game early, and you'll receive a slightly different ending depending on how much money you've made to that point. Not necessarily the worst space to land on once you have enough money or have just had your fill of this game. Yeah, it's usually the latter for me. I get spent, but actually, in the interest of knowing how much money we should be targeting in our playthroughs, Fluff, what's the difference between the different checkpoints when you finish the game for the different endings?
So there's essentially 4 different endings for the Three Stooges, depending on how much money you make. If you make anything less than $5,000, then the banker takes back the orphanage, and it's pretty much a bummer. Make $5,000, you can save the orphanage, but they can't fix it up. Make $10,000, and they have enough to fix up the orphanage on top of you saving it. Make $20,000, and you get to marry the orphanage lady's daughters. That's just classic Stooge comedy right there. But you really gotta work for that 20 grand, let me tell you.
Yeah, we might just go for 10 grand and just be happy to get the orphanage paid off and fixed up if possible. I'm sure Ma will appreciate that. Probably be even more appreciative that she didn't have to marry off her daughters to the Three Stooges, but there you go. Back to the hoity-toity club for more pie throwing. Look professional. Do not get any pie on yourself. They do give you 5 pies you can take before the game ends prematurely. There you go. Let them have it. You heard them, boys. And while we're slinging more pies, let's bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about the Three Stooges. Fluff?
The Three Stooges was generally well received. While it was criticized for its repetitive gameplay and lack of replay value, it was praised for its faithfulness of capturing the humor and magic of the Three Stooges themselves. The mini-games were based on the short films from the Stooges, like 1941's Dutiful But Dumb for the Cracker mini-game, and 1934's Punch Drunks for the boxing mini-game, the latter of which was selected for preservation by the United States National Film Registry of the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
There you go. Yep. See how the boxing mini-game, I could see like big Three Stooges fans, and you know there's certainly rabid fan bases out there for virtually everything, but certainly for the Three Stooges, they appreciate this game. And we're working on a pretty good paycheck this time. If we can deliver all these pies, we're looking at about $1,200. Slinging lots of pies here. 715. Sometimes the timer just keeps going and going, because every pie you land is earning you another $10 right there. And the ducks add to that as well, another $5. Wow, almost $2 grand. That's why I love the pies. If you hit it right, you get a massive payout for relatively little effort. Granted, that one took a while, but still. All right, what's our overall total now? What are we looking at? 7 grand. Yeah, it's still got another 3 grand to save and fix up Ma's orphanage. Got more trivia, and while we're looking up more trivia, let's go to Fluff for one more Fluff fact, this time about the evil banker himself. Fluff?
The evil banker in the game is modeled after Ted Healy, who was at one point the highest paid vaudeville performer, as well as the man who created the Three Stooges in his comedy act, Ted Healy and the Stooges. Healy appeared with the Stooges in the 1930 film Soup to Nuts, which was critically panned, save for strong reviews for the Three Stooges themselves. Fox offered the Stooges alone a contract, so they splintered from Healy and went on to international fame and fortune. Healy passed away at the age of 41 in 1937 after an altercation with future James Bond producer Albert R. Broccoli, of all people, at the Trocadero nightclub. Old Hollywood sure was crazy, Professor.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's the last name. I guess I have no expectations there, but that's not a name I would expect to be linked to the Three Stooges in any way. Albert R. Broccoli, the James Bond producer. But, yeah, there you go, I suppose. Let's try to make some more cash as we are coming up on 10,000. At which point I think we will just try to end this if we haven't hit the 30 days by then. $100, come on now. We know that can go as high as 1,000. Not to be. Oh well, it's a quick way to end the day. More trivia, another $600 right here. So again, we do have the link to the trivia guide. So if you're playing this, you can check this out on Game Facts. So credit to that. Which of the Stooges like to collect stamps? That would be Moe. Which was the first product the Stooges endorsed on TV? That was the Hot Shot insecticide. Makes me laugh, though. And the 3D films, that would be, yes, More Than Zero. They made 2 3D films. Not sure how that worked back in, well, I don't know what year that would have been at that point. But, let's see if we can get another $1,200 right here just from tossing some pies around. I guess we made close to 1,800, I think, in that one time. Back at the hoity-toity club once again. Still makes me laugh. I'm sure if I ever saw any Three Stooges movies, shorts, or anything, it was when I was very young. I do not remember. And I have very little concept of the Three Stooges. Duckmo. But, yeah, I guess it's one of those things that appeals to kids in theory, like, you know, their slapstick comedy. Either people loved it when they were doing it in the 40s, the 50s, things like that. Decades like that. Or it appealed to kids regardless of when they're seeing it, you know, just adults acting silly. Most kids could get behind that. Because I was trying to, you know, I was thinking to myself, like, how does a game about the Three Stooges get made, you know? Were there a lot of, you know, most of the people that grew up with the Three Stooges, I would assume, you know, they were probably, by the time this game came out, maybe they were in their 50s or 60s, and probably, I don't know, they probably didn't play a lot of video games, just I'm profiling, but I assume in the 80s, the 50s and 60-year-old, that bracket weren't rushing out to buy a Nintendo or any of the other systems which this game was ported to. Yeah, it sort of fascinates me, I don't know, it makes me laugh a little bit, some of the themes, some of the subject matters that the games of the NES were based on. You know? Like we did the Fester's Quest game, obviously. There were a lot of Addams Family fans, you know, in the 80s. I suppose maybe you saw reruns or something if you were a kid of the 70s, something like that, of the show that came out a decade earlier, but I don't know. Different time. I just find it interesting how these games get greenlit. We did kind of have some fun with that, though, in our class. Couldn't double the money, took that final pie. Oh well. Still very close. Yeah, we did our class on Fester's Quest. One of the first classes we did, actually, and had a little bit of fun in the intro. Did a bit of a extended intro for that particular game, and had some fun talking about how that game went on to be greenlit. But as always, I digress. We'll give the safe a shot here. Is this going to cost us money? There we go, $500. All right, so unless we take another hit, which is going to drop us below 10 grand, we have enough to both save the orphanage and get it fixed up. So just go ahead and snap our fingers at this point, get them caught in the mousetrap. Again, I think as Blaze mentioned, the developers don't consider the thumb to be one of the fingers, so we get 4 lives, 4 fingers. One more should do it. And there we go. Ma's Orphanage is saved. Your gift of $10,345 has saved the children's home. Just hanging around in our overalls. We paid the rent and used the rest of the money to repair it. And that's about all you could expect in the late 80s with an NES game in terms of an ending. But there you go. Three Stooges. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to this channel. We do one of these classes every single week. We'd love to have you enrolled. Leave a like if you don't mind. It really does help us out in making future classes. And leave a comment as well if you don't mind. Did you ever play this one? Do you have any interest in playing this one? Or maybe just you got everything you needed out of watching this class? That's totally fine, totally acceptable as well. But that's our time. We'll see you next time in the same spot for next week's class right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.